When we invest our money, we have this one simple expectation, right? That we can get it back when we need it. But what if that's not always true? What if that's actually a bit of a myth? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on some of these popular funds and look at the hidden liquidity traps that might be lurking in your portfolio. So, let me ask you this. How liquid is your money, for real? I mean, you look at your screen, you see that number, your portfolio value, and you just kind of assume, yep, that's mine. I can pull it out whenever. But can you? Really? Especially when things get rocky in the market? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll start with the big liquidity promise that we're all sold on. Then we'll expose three major traps: the stampede effect, something I'm calling the system glitch, and the lock-in. And we'll wrap it all up by talking about what this means for you and your money. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off with the big idea, the foundation that the entire system is built on, really. It's that promise of easy, on-demand access to your money. It's what gets millions of us to invest in the first place. And the main way this promise is delivered is through what's called an open-ended fund. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple. You want to buy in? Cool. You want to cash out? No problem. The fund just kind of creates or gets rid of shares as people come and go. And the price you get is based on something called the net asset value, or NAV. Basically, it's the total worth of everything the fund owns divided by how many shares are out there. Sounds pretty perfect, doesn't it? And right here, this is the heart of the problem. You've got the promise on one side, perpetual liquidity, your money whenever you want it. But then there's the reality, which can be a whole different story. The reality is that this liquidity can be a real fair-weather friend. It's there for you when the sun is shining, but the second a storm rolls in, poof, it vanishes. So that brings us to our very first trap. It's called the stampede effect. And it's a perfect example of how that freedom to pull your money out anytime can suddenly turn into a cage. Honestly, the easiest way to picture this is a classic bank run. You've seen it in the movies, right? But instead of a bank, it's happening to an investment fund. Look, if one person decides to cash out, it's no big deal. But when panic hits and suddenly everyone is rushing for the exit at the exact same time, well, that's when the whole system starts to shake. And here's how that domino effect plays out. It all kicks off with some kind of market panic. That leads to mass redemptions. Everybody wants out. So now the fund manager is forced to sell off assets. And I mean fast. We're talking fire sales. This fire sale floods the market, which, of course, crashes the price of those very assets. And what does that do? It tanks the fund's NAV, its net asset value. So even if you manage to get your money, you might get back way, way less than what you thought it was worth just a few days earlier. Ouch. Okay, so we've seen how a crowd of other investors can cause a stampede and hurt your returns. But what happens when it's not the people, but the system itself that lets you down? This is trap number 2, and it's less about market psychology and more about the technology that's supposed to be flawless. Let's talk about the dreaded system glitch. Now, check out this quote. This is from a real investor. We've just kept them anonymous. Try to put yourself in their shoes. You decide to cash out. The platform shows you, okay, here's what you're going to get. But then a lower amount actually lands in your bank account. And when you call them on it, they just retroactively change the numbers on their end to match the lower payout. I mean, talk about a total breakdown of trust. It's wild. And this is the perfect example of where the on-paper promise just slams into a really harsh reality. The rulebook says you get paid based on the NAV. Simple. But in the real world, a quote-unquote system error can suddenly decide how much of your own money you're actually allowed to have. It's crazy. All right, on to our third and final trap. And this one might be the most frustrating of all. Because this is when the exit door isn't just jammed with people. It's been locked and bolted from the outside. We're talking about the lock-in. See, some funds, especially the ones that are pushed with tempting perks like tax savings, come with some serious strings attached. A classic example is something called an ELSS, an equity-linked savings scheme. You get a nice little tax break, but the catch is you have to agree to lock up your money for a fixed amount of time. And a lot of people don't really think through what that means until it's too late. And this timeline lays out just how bad that can get. So year 1, you put your money in. Great. But then in year 2, bam, the market crashes. Your gut, your brain, everything is screaming, sell, cut your losses. But you can't. That mandatory lock-in is like a pair of handcuffs. You literally have no choice but to sit there and watch your investment's value just disappear, completely powerless. 3 years. That's the standard lock-in period for a fund like that. For 3 years, your money is basically a hostage. It doesn't matter what the market is doing. It doesn't matter if you have a personal emergency. It's stuck. And in the investing world, 3 years can feel like an absolute eternity. Okay, so we've walked through the stampede, the glitch, and the lock-in. So what now? What does this all mean for you, the investor? Well, it really boils down to one thing. You've got to rethink what liquidity really means and have a solid exit strategy. Yeah, I want to bring this quote back because it just hits the nail on the head. Liquidity is often a fair weather friend. The biggest lesson here is that you just can't assume you can get your money out at the value you see on the screen whenever you feel like it. You have to plan for the rainy days, not just the sunny ones. So let's boil it all down. What are the key takeaways? First, think of perpetual liquidity as a great marketing slogan, not a law of physics. Second, always remember that a panic can cause a stampede that drags down your payout. Third, those system glitches, they're not just theoretical, they can actually happen. And of course, those lock-ins are rigid, they don't care about market conditions. So the most important thing you can do is investigate the real liquidity conditions of a fund. Basically, figure out your exit plan before you even think about putting your money in. And I'll leave you with this one final question to think about. Go and look at your own portfolio. Look at every single fund you're in and ask yourself, honestly, if things go sideways, is that exit door you're counting on really going to be open?